everybody, welcome back to Chisme con Propósito, episode 2. I am your host, Janet Tellez, and we just want to give so much thanks to everybody who has been listening, who has been reaching out, and who has been sharing it. We can't do this without you, and we hope to continue having you here every other Wednesday. So today's guest is very special to me. She is dear to my heart, and that is my sister.
Hola mi gente, my name is Imelda Tellez or Imelda Tellez. I am an educator, whole-round educator when I am a school counselor. I'm also an adjunct professor at a private university, and most importantly, my latest passion has been clinician in mental health.
Just to key, I call her the woman of many hats because she puts one on, takes one off, and all of that. Just a simple question. Yes. Did it start like from the beginning, a little background in your education, what you have education in, and have you always wanted to do mental health?
Well, in education, honestly, my journey was not linear. Growing up with both our parents, we grew up with business. Growing up, primarily for me, I remember when we were little, our parents had the tiendita, aka a little store. And it was very family owned. It was mom and dad going into the business. And my mom, in the community that we grew up with, she was known as the woman who had the best tacos, tortas, semitas, everything.
Till this day.
And yes. So, and growing up is like, okay, so you have to do business because what everyone's doing, even our Tío Cosme is very into business. So I thought, I'm going to do business. And I remember high school, I was like, I'm going to do international business and I am going to do this, that, and the third. And no, it did not happen that way. What ended up happening, I graduated, I did go to a business school. And somewhere along the way, I ended up taking on an internship at some point. And that internship was international business. And it was at an international clothing store where I learned the back end of what it is to produce a piece like this, get it approved, send it overseas. And then I recall I hated it. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. But I was so near towards the end of my bachelor's degree that there was no way that I was going to be able to switch over without starting all over again. So what I ended up doing was switching my major. And at that point, I was talking to a counselor and I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't want to do business anymore. So she was like, why not human resources? Because I knew I wanted to work with people. I just didn't know at what capacity. And I was like, you know what? That's a great idea. So at some point, I went back to my own high school counselor. And I was like, I brought in the conversation. And she was like, you can be an amazing school counselor. And I was like, you know, girl, you're right. So at some point, what ended up happening, I graduated with a bachelor's in business administration. And I fell into finance by accident. Everything started with an internship. And at this,
was this the same internship?
No, I took a second internship, and when I graduated, it was the beginning of the recession. So at that point, I remember I'm like, well, I need money, and the only internships that paid were the finance ones. So I ended up taking on finance. So when I graduated, I had this business finance internship, which was paying me. And I was like, yes, I'm an adult. I'm getting a paycheck. Hey. And at some point, I ended up doing accounting. And accounting was great. But I lasted 5 years in accounting. And I remember it was not my cup of tea. It was not for me. My biggest enemy was Marilyn at accounts receivable, who was a 50-year-old woman who loved what she did, but she loved it too much. And it was like, girl, you cannot be my biggest enemy right here. So at some point, I went back to my counselor as well. And during that time, after graduating college, you have so much time. And you get lost. What is it that you want to do? What am I doing with my time? So I actually started volunteering at this great organization called The Door, a Center of Alternatives, where I was doing accounts receivable And at the same time, I was volunteering in the membership services department, where everyone was like, okay, like they're coming in to get services. And at that point, I knew that I liked to work with kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know I want to do this. So I went back to my counselor. And I was like, I don't know if I should do social work. So shout out to the social workers. Or should I do counseling? So I remember she was like, you speak Espanol. You speak Spanish. You become a school counselor. You're going to get a job because you're bilingual. And then at that point, what ends up happening is like, you'll have your summers off. I was like, okay. So I go back to do my research, and I'm looking at the schools, and the social work schools require a GRE, and I'm not a great test taker. I was like, oh no, oh hell no.
Honestly, I think it runs in the family because I also am not a great test taker, and sometimes I had to learn.
Yeah, well, those are things that unfortunately, growing up in low socioeconomic communities, we are not taught how to take tests.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that it's not a resource. It's actually, it is a skill that you can learn, but it's a skill that we don't get to learn when at a young age, we act like you said it. You learned it in college. I learned it in grad school as well. So it happens.
Which you eventually went to grad school.
Exactly. So at some point, I ended up doing school counseling at Hunter College, and that's how I ended up doing my switch from finance to school counseling. And it didn't stop there. It didn't stop there. When it became my fourth year, my mentor, her name is Laura Soriano, and who I currently am a supervisor at Empower Yourself Health, Mental Health. So definitely, she's my great mentor. Year 4, she was like, you need to go back and do mental health. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm done with school. Forget school. And at some point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Went back to school for my certificate of advanced study in mental health. Ended up graduating. Did my internship where she was still working with young kids with anxiety, depression, PTSD, ADHD, and everything along with the different spectrums of mental health. And at some point, I remember I'm like, okay, this is it. Well, I lied to myself again. So what ended up happening as a woman of many hats, getting my license in mental health opened the door to academia again. And not only academia at the high school level, academia at the postgraduate level or the graduate level with the private institute that I am with. And I'm very proud to be with them. And it has been one of the most amazing things to be able to be not only a high school counselor, but be a counselor, a mental health clinician in the field who's witnessing the development and growth and fostering the collaboration and many different things of different clinicians in the field. So I am very thankful that what started with a degree as a bachelor ended up becoming my passion with counseling. So it's amazing.
Wow. So you not only started something else.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it was just things were aligning for you and were telling you, okay, maybe this is what you need to do? Yeah. What was the journey like going through your master's? You said you had to do a graduate degree as well.
So
did it challenge you? Because you've seen me cry and all of that for my degree, and I've seen the same thing for you.
Yeah. So I feel that with the graduate degree, it was with my school counseling degree. It felt like there was a challenge, but it was a manageable challenge because there was a linear pathway. You do this, you graduate, and the biggest fear was obtaining a employment because it is public schools in New York City, and oftentimes counselor positions are not as valued or available as much. So I think that there was like a lot of hesitation and fear. But once I graduated, and I was also like, the biggest thing that I can encourage to everyone, internships are everything, because I ended up getting hired at my internship site, and with who my mentors still to the day are part of there. So I feel that what was the most biggest obstacle for me was the exam to be a licensed mental health clinician. That for me was the biggest challenge of them all, because it's licensing with the state of New York. It's preparing for the state exam. And like I mentioned, I'm not a great test taker.
Yeah.
So I remember like living at that point, and it was just eat, breathe, sleep, exam preparation. Get up early, like an hour earlier, study, and come home and study again. So I was doing 2 to 3 hours of studying to the point that I was not healthy. And that's where I felt like, okay, I really, like, this is depending on me. But at that point, it was more like, I've invested so much in this, and there's no way that I'm going to give up right now, even if it impaired a couple of relationships. Oops.
But I feel the same way, because even right now, I'm studying to get licensed as a pharmacist. And on top of working,
Yes,
which is essential.
It is.
She's worked since she's been 17 nonstop.
Yeah.
Has never stopped working, no nothing.
Yes.
And you have been like one of my biggest like role models. So I'm introducing you guys to my role model, and I'm just like, I was like, I'm gonna level up. She's doing this. I can do this. I can continue to push myself. So I understand, because you put so much into this that these fees are a lot of money. These fees are a lot of money to
but
get
it's
licensed.
investment.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's just like, I'm gonna take this exam, and I'm only taking it once because, sorry, honey, I don't got money to take this exam one more time. Like, I need to pay my rent. Like, you can't. I need to take on more hours. But yeah, I am honestly like, do you see, out of all of your trades and all of that, do you see something common between them? Your passion? What keeps you going?
I love that when I reflect on my journey, I reflect on the fact that there was always a space for someone to describe what they felt, to feel seen, heard, and validated. There have been times like working in your community. I used living in Astoria, particularly. There were times where I would bump into high school students all the time. And at some point, and I remember this one student, like years later after he graduated, I saw him randomly on the train station. Actually, he recognized me. And you were there.
Oh,
yeah, you were there. Yeah, and he approached me, and he was like, Miss Tellez, and I was like, who is this? So it was my student. We spoke and we caught up a little bit, and I felt safe enough that I'm like, okay, we can catch up through social media. And at some point, he sent me a follow-up message. He's like, I just want you to know that I truly miss all our sessions where I used to come to your office and just talk about life. He was like, I didn't know it was therapeutic, and I missed all that I engaged with. And I thank you so much for just hearing me or for helping me. Like, so that's where I come back, that the onus of becoming a counselor, I did it because I wanted to help the youth, and it's developed to so much more than that. It's developing individuals who need a space, who want to be heard, who feel like, okay, I can trust this person to speak a little bit more about my concern at this time. And that, to me, when I just hear the thank you for hearing, or for making me, for making that space, or for making me feel like validated, it's priceless. I love it. So I feel as counselors, we are the doctors of the heart and soul.
Aww.
Yeah.
So we're Mexican American.
Yes.
How do you keep going with culture and embedding it into your life?
Yes.
And keeping it alive, like
Yes.
traditions? Like, my way is through cooking.
Yes.
I love cooking Mexican food.
Yes.
Mole, pozole,
Yes.
tamales.
We like to eat.
Yes. How do you?
I feel that it becomes I go through cycles.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned that I go through cycles, and those cycles become, I have my cooking cycle.
Yeah.
And it's like, what it speaks to me is food. I have definitely, right now, the current cycle is dancing. To me, is more of a physical capacity. Like before this is interview, I was doing a class with my friend where we're trying to learn how to coordinate and teach a style of music called huapango. And huapango is basically a regional Mexican genre that is very popular. It goes hand in hand with something called quebradita. And that's something that we want to bring out to the community because we see that people are asking, but there's no one out teaching it. And it's very popular, at least on the West Coast and in Mexico. Yes. But in the East Coast, I feel that being Mexican American is a whole different, it's a difference because we're farther away from Mexico. But there are different ways that we can still bring it in, like through things like cumbia.
Oh, yes.
So different things. So at this cycle right now, it's a lot of dancing and embedding it not only with the Mexican American portion of it, but also exposing myself to different genres of dance, such as salsa, bachata. And those have been things that I feel growing up on the East Coast, it's the most beautiful thing that could have occurred to us because we're not only fluent in Mexican culture, but we're also fluent in arroz con gandules, a moro, a pernil, and it's just it's such a beautiful way that I feel that we are so blessed to be exposed with so many different cultures in addition to being Mexican. And I feel that because depending on where we are in the community, we might be the only Mexican people. So we can also bring that whole psychoeducation, like, well, this is our culture and this is what we're doing. And it's way beyond tacos. Yes, it's about the mole that you mentioned, the pozole and how it's created. So it's taking that into consideration and also connecting with the history of our culture.
I just want to thank you so much for being the second guest on my show. We're going to go into our closing segment. Yes. And I just want to ask you, for anybody who wants to go through this career path or anyone who is thinking about it, what sort of advice would you give them?
So, thank you for making the space. Let's start out with that. Let's start out with making the space. And thank you for asking me to be on, because it was definitely like, oh, okay, we get to talk. Let me put let's put it all out there. But regarding career, I feel that in like counseling / social work, they're like becoming involved and aware and having a genuine desire to help people, but also knowing that you may not see results, that you may not be able to deliver the results you want because someone was not ready and not taking it to heart that it was your fault. And then I feel like that's one of the biggest challenges that social workers, counselors, or anyone in a field that is providing a service of healing and not fixing, because counselors don't fix. Okay. Healing. Yes. Like, it could be a challenge because we take pride in our work. We care about our clients, our community. So I feel that when it comes to it, it's learning to take things with a grain of salt. Like, I'm helping you reflect, grow, and challenge you to reframe a thought, to reframe a pathway, so to see where you can grow and learn from there. That would be my most biggest piece of advice for anyone. Also, when it comes to education, be smart about it. Sometimes the ticket price is not worth a large brand. Like, for example, I've seen make financial educated picks, because at the end of the day, like, I knew that I got accepted for my graduate level to NYU. I didn't decide to go to NYU. I decided to go to Hunter College because that tuition fit my bill. So don't be afraid of the tuition. I know it's a big number, but that big number is worth your investment. Yes. Because to have a career that you're so passionate about, being 10 years in, I love it. I genuinely love it. My students and I still connect. I still have great relationships currently with the younger ones, because now there's like a a 17, 18-year gap between my current students and myself.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like, I feel like I'm able to still be relevant with some of the terminology and be curious about it.
You're always going to be up to date with this current Gen Z terminology. Let me tell you, no matter what. But as someone, like, I see you get up. She does not call out for anything.
I don't.
Like, she loves what she does. We've seen it, and I see it personally firsthand. But can I ask you, like, just a simple before we close off, how's your work-life balance? Do you have a work-life balance? You hold so many trades. Like, how do you make it work?
So, I feel that I had to learn that it's okay to call out, because you are right. There has been phases where I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go. But I think that I've created that space to be like, it's okay to take care of yourself and call out. Yeah, because sometimes I am mentally tired, and my favorite mantra this year, I cannot pour into your cup until I pour into my cup. I cannot help grow your garden if my garden is abandoned. So I feel that was my mantra this year. So I did grow to be kinder to myself. And growing up is like, oh, échale ganas, y tienes que hacer esto, and you gotta do this, and you still have to go. I am learning to detach that thought frame and be like, it's okay. Take the day off, girl. Sleep in. So work-life balance after work, I learned that I am a physical person. I have thoroughly enjoyed going out to the gym, and I see the results, and I'm proud of them. Yeah. But also, the biggest thing that occurred to me in the last 3 years was I joined a dance community. And that dance community I went in for a salsa class, and I came out with the community, which has grown into friendships, which have been communities of caring for each other for different reasons. And we have come to not only dance salsa, but we've spoken about real life things like love, relationships, heartbreak, dancing in the streets of Cali. And it's that balance of finding people who are, okay, this is what united us, but this is what we can do together. And that has been the most beautiful thing for me, and I'm very thankful that I found that community. I also feel that when it comes to work-life balance, finding a like-minded individuals who are going to support you, especially for females, I want to say that empower each other with love. And that empowerment with love can sometimes be having a very difficult conversation of like, baby, you just really, really were not the nice person right there. Yeah. And it's just encouraging, like, remaining in that investment of like, okay, empowering each other, because if you can't pour into them, you can't pour yourself in. Yes. So it's definitely very important for me when it comes to work-life balance. I've learned that I'm a physical person. Dancing brings a lot of love inside me, even though sometimes I'll be like so tired the next day, but it'll be like, okay, I did something great that made me feel amazing, and it dropped those endorphins, and I'm like, right there. Wow.
So before we head out, just do you have your own personal échale ganas to anybody who is hearing us today?
For the youth, definitely, and for even the person who wants to change the career, be curious about that fear of taking that leap. If you are curious, it's like, if this is not resonating with me, what can I do right now that's going to help me bring a little sort of happiness to me? So for example, if I want to change careers, be curious, what's going on? For the students in the youth, internships make a whole worldwide of a difference, and networking. You never know who's going to know someone who's going to help you, or going to help a family member or a colleague or a friend. So networking and internships are amazing. And most importantly, I would say with échale ganas is find your tribe. Find the individuals who are going to challenge you with love. So, because success is doable, but it's so much enriching when you see yourself be successful, and not only are you successful, but everyone around you is successful. So that would be my big échale ganas.
Thank you so much. And guys, like she said, find your tribe. I have mine. She's part of my tribe. We're part of each other's tribe. And thank you so much for stopping by and coming to our second episode and listening. Please follow us on our social medias. They're linked in our bio. Also, don't forget, every other Wednesday, hump day, we drop an episode at 6 p.m. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.